Oh my goodness! Guten Tag and bienvenidos, listeners. Welcome to Über Cinco Live, the podcast game show where we deep dive top fives. I'm Brian Ernst, your host for today's festivities, and in the den is Mitch Brinkman versus Nathan Hennenfent. Today, our contestants will reveal and defend their top five world history Tinder matches. You heard me correctly, future podcast listeners. This episode is being recorded live on St. Patrick's Day. So welcome to all of our live stream viewers, which we can only assume is our moms, if they in fact open the link correctly. We will not be able to troubleshoot their Wi-Fi for the next hour. So dads, this one's on you. Turn it off, turn it back on again. That's what I, Chris O'Dowd, and Richard Iowade do. So please take that advice. It is time to introduce our honored guests. You know him as the Ginger Prince, the #1 evangelist for small businesses, but most importantly, our special little guy. It's Mitch Brinkman. How are you, sir?
Hey, this is the only reason I grew a mustache was to be able to put foam on it during the live show. So here we go.
Oh, here it comes.
Oh,
wow.
That's the best joke I have. Okay. But of course, today I want to spotlight a small business. Wexford Irish style cream ale brewed in England, but it's Irish. Comes from Suffolk in England. So yeah, thanks for having me. I try to dress up a little bit. I don't know if this comes off right, but this is a green turtleneck. It's green, I promise.
Oh, wow. Well, it looks great. It looks great. And nothing but turtlenecks and blazers, the best look out there. All right. Mm-hmm. And his challenger is a man that year by year has absorbed every follicle of hair I have left. He can still dunk at 34, and he's the future owner of my 3,000 square foot dream home. It's Nathan Hennenfent. How are you, sir?
Greetings. Thank you. Good to be here. I'm well. I do want to say that Mitch has gotten me 100 times over the years. If we're out at an Irish pub watching our favorite soccer team, he'll order a Boddington's, I believe his beverage of choice for this particular joke, which is a very foamy beer. And I'll be looking at the game intently, cheering on my beloved Manchester United. And Mitch will ask me an incredibly serious question that's a little bit out of context for where we're at. And so I'll give it some thought and I'll turn back to him and he'll have a complete straight face and the biggest foam mustache in the world on it. And it has gotten me every single time. And I just pray for all of our listeners out there that one day they too will be on the receiving end of the foam mustache gag from Mitch.
Oh man, what a show do we have in store? We got more mustache and Boddington plugs. What else could anyone ask for on this St. Paddy's Day? If you like what you hear today, consider heading on over to bizbear.biz to submit your own topic suggestion for a future show. It may even end up on an episode. And if you are a first timer in the Über Cinco Den, let us wake you out of hibernation with a quick rundown of the rules.
Each player in the den has spent time with today's topic arranging their top 5 answers in order of importance. Those answers have been submitted to the host who will moderate the game, awarding points to the player with the most poignant answer.
Starting with their number 5 choice, we will move up the ranks until we reach each of their top answers. But if both contestants happen to have the same answer on their list, well, we have an Uber stare down.
You will hear the official Über Cinco siren, and both players must reveal their answer and what number they ranked their submission. An Uber stare down is all or nothing, with one player earning 3 points. After all answers have been read, the host will reveal the final score.
And as host, I'm entitled to institute a house rule for today's game. Later on in the show, we will be joined by a very special guest with 2 whimsical tales. Story 1 will be assigned to Nathan. Story 2 will be assigned to Mitch. The more embarrassing story about my past will award 3 points to the victor. So either way, I lose.
Yeah.
And
Woo!
in honor of St. Patrick's Day, don't forget to stick around to the end of the show where I will reveal my Fast 5 send-off, the top 5 Patricks. Nathan, you won the pre-show bull riding contest lasting an impressive 8.6 seconds. So you, sir, will go first.
All right. My number 5 in my Tinder matches of historic figures I wish would have hooked up is Abraham Lincoln, 16th President of the United States, and Dorothy Parker, author, critic, and well-known wit in the 1920s. And this is one that I wish would have happened in the modern day, so they could have been flirting with each other on Twitter for all to see, because these are two people who could jam just 17 different types of humor into one 10-word sentence. They were hilarious. Abraham's profile would be Abe, lawyer, Springfield, Illinois. Hobbies, reading and wrestling. He was a wrestling champion in his youth. Not a lot of people know that. His little summary would be small town lawyer who stumbled into big time politics. And on his profile picture, what could be sexier than just the $5 bill? That is pretty good. That would have you're not going to swipe left on the $5 bill. Then Dorothy, she would hers would say writer, theater critic, funniest person in the room. Her hobby would be being nominated for Academy Awards, which she was as a screenwriter later in her career. And her profile picture would be one that I found of her with a group of people that included Harpo Marx. She was hanging out with the likes of Faulkner and the Marx brothers, and she was part of the Algonquin Round Table, which was, I think it was an Algonquin hotel, and she just basically hung out there and was just hilarious with people, and that was basically like what she was known for. And the brevity being the soul of what I would like to share, just a couple of quotes from these two individuals. First from Dorothy is somebody walked into the Algonquin room and said that President Calvin Coolidge was dead, and Dorothy said, "How could they tell?" and then she was known. It was like, "Oh, so Dorothy, people say you can come up with something funny to say about anything," and she said, "Yeah, probably." And they said, "Come up with something funny to say about horticulture," and she said, "You can lead a horticulture, but you cannot make her think." And that's one of my favorite quotes ever. And then for Abe Lincoln, I have this for those watching on the YouTube stream or Facebook or wherever. I have this book here. This is The Wit and Witticism of Abraham Lincoln, which was given to me by my grandfather. And this book was printed in the 1800s, and it has this. This is the actual Post-it note that was in it when my grandfather sent it to me, and I'm going to read it to you now. Nathan, we put this in the microwave after washing it. That is actually what this says. I've never quite gotten a full explanation from my grandfather onto what that means or why books needed to be washed and or microwaved, but I suspect my grandmother, my dear departed lovely grandmother Betty, was probably behind that scheme. But we have some great little letters here from Abe Lincoln. Everything was so beautiful and so short. This is Lincoln recommending a more appropriate punishment to a 14-year-old who had a drummer boy in the army who had been sentenced to death. And this is to Edwin Stanton, Secretary of War. My dear sir, hadn't we better spank this drummer boy and send him back to Leavenworth? A. Lincoln. Or this is a mother seeking employment for her two sons. My dear sir, the lady bearer of this, she has two sons who want to work. Set them at it if possible. Wanting to work is so rare a want that it should be encouraged. Your obedient servant, Abraham Lincoln. I love that. Your obedient servant is one of my favorites, and I couldn't find the page in the book, but my all-time favorite one is somebody sent him a complaint about General Grant, who more or less war for the Union in the Civil War, and about him being entirely drunk, and he's always drinking whiskey and smoking cigars, and that being a degenerate. And Abraham Lincoln's reply was, find out what whiskey he's drinking and send a crate of it to the rest of my generals. So So Dorothy Parker and Abraham Lincoln, they could just jam all kinds of good stuff into 140 characters. I would love to see the romance play out on Twitter, in the Twitter sphere. Their first date, I think they would be strolling along Domino Park in Williamsburg in Brooklyn. They'd go through independent bookstores. Abe will have tickets to the theater, but Dorothy, in her role as a theater critic, will have already seen Our American Cousin featuring John Wilkes Booth, and she'll talk him out of it. They'll go have ice cream sundaes. Everybody lives happily ever after. There's my number 5.
And
Wow.
I think one $5 bill could pay for everything. You need to have about $2.50 left over too. And
Yeah.
I think their entire relationship would be good on that $5 bill in modern standards. Yeah.
I've got a 5 here, Dorothy. Do you want a house and a horse and a date and a Sunday? Yes.
Oh God.
Is that how Abe Lincoln spoke? That's my impression of Daniel Day-Lewis doing an impression of Abe, or sorry, not impressing, becoming
Impressive.
Abe Lincoln. But,
Oh. I don't know if anybody noticed while watching Lincoln that Daniel Day-Lewis did that entire movie on his left foot. I couldn't believe that was actually possible, but that man has stayed in character for nearly a decade, so that's pretty cool. All right. Nathan, we got a whole show to fill up here, so I'm not going to ask any follow-ups. Mitch, I need to get your number 5 before we move on here.
Sure, yeah. My number 5, this is a couple who they won't make a lot of eye contact on their first date. It'll feel robotic. It'll feel like they're just kind of like checking the boxes until they can get to the other stuff. And the first one I'll mention is, and I might be mispronouncing this because it is a Hungarian countess, but Elizabeth Bathory or Bathory, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but
First Uber stare down. Oh my
here we go.
Atlanta. Elizabeth has shown up on 2 lists here. Mitch,
Holy cow.
who did you pair with Elizabeth?
Well, so, I mean, we know Elizabeth was very wealthy, kind of controlled, like the community of serfs and had endless money. Her family is one of the wealthiest Protestant families in all of Europe. So she lured hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of young women to her manor and sadistically tortured them, killed them, mutilated genitalia, was an absolute horrific monster, perhaps the largest killer in all of history, if you're not counting, of course, dictators or war people. Is it
war people? Yeah, that's
War people. Yeah,
there we go.
That's,
Yeah.
That's what I have. I have that in the book right here. War
Yeah.
people.
Okay. Good. Yeah. And of course she didn't answer for her crimes. All of her assistants and like people who worked for her and butlers and chauffeurs answer for her crimes, but she would date someone who's caused just as much misery, if not more. Mark Zuckerberg. And again, just like Elizabeth's theory on hosting people, Mark Zuckerberg's ethos at Facebook is move fast and break things. And so these two will pair very nicely as a disgusting God, take his picture down. I don't even want to look at it. It makes me so angry. I just want to punch it. I hate him so much. But she'll discover in this new age of obviously heightened security with digital powers, Facebook will help her lure a lot more people in for a lot more disgusting, dirty games. So I think these two will last as long as they can trust each other. Mark might have to create 8 to 10 fake Facebook accounts to like catfish her, to like get her out of the house so he can have someone else kill her. Or she's just going to kill him and it's going to take forever. It's going to take a couple years. Kind of like the death of Facebook, remember when it used to be cool? It's not cool anymore. It's like a slow decline. That's kind of what his death will be.
And
like.
to all of our live stream listeners watching on Facebook Live tonight, please stay with us. And Mr. Zuckerberg, please do not take us down. Thank you. As Mitch just completely bashes the service we're using for free.
Hey,
we are the product.
It-
I know we are the product. It's not free.
It's about the culture. It's not about the whatever. I think these two would make a horrifically just boring couple, and they would just delight in their idiosyncrasies or their sadistic egotism. I'm not sure exactly what, but they're God. Okay, you have billions of dollars. Get a better hairstylist or a barber or whatever, or just wear a wig. Wear an incredible wig. Call up someone in Hollywood and put down millions of dollars for the best wig you can find and wear that instead, Mark Zuckerberg. Okay.
All right. And Mr. Nathan, your rebuttal here. Who did you pair with lovely Elizabeth?
Well, I had her, and I'm so glad that we had the same one, because Mitch just got to do all the explaining and clearly did all the research that I didn't do and was worried I was going to be exposed on. But so I'll just say for her, everything Mitch said, and we'll move on. I had her paired with Henry VIII. Henry VIII. Now, so, his profile would just be like, I'm the king, like, what's up? And his hobbies, hunting, jousting. That's all you need to know. Relationship history. It's complicated, but don't worry. The exes will not be interfering. Profile picture. The most flattering one imaginable, since whoever painted it didn't want their head chopped off. And then Elizabeth, she's she's super rich. She lives in a castle. She's a natural match for Henry. He's already had 6 wives. She seems like a prime candidate. But the reason why I wanted to do up is, so this Henry VIII guy, the more I learn about him, the less I like him. He seems to be a bit of a problem. I mean, it's been in the news recently about the royal family and Meghan Markle, their mistreatment of Meghan Markle, and I think, boy, you think the royal family is bad now. Wait till you hear about this guy.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
Yeah, I mean, say what you will about the spouses of any royal family members now, but at least they haven't been executed on some trumped up charges. So basically, it's time for Henry VIII to get his comeuppance. I found someone of the nobility in Europe. They didn't live that far. Like, they're within a century of each other. We'll hook them up. And then we're just gonna hope that it plays out that Elizabeth, like the biggest rumor about her, and I'm not sure this one's true, but they said that with these people she killed, she would actually bathe in their blood because she thought it would preserve her youth. And I think what better comeuppance to Henry VIII, who had chopped off the heads of not only his wives, but his closest friends, people who were his staunch allies, people who had helped him get everything he wanted, no regard for human life. Wouldn't it be just complete poetic justice if he met a woman who could outdo him in his own maliciousness, and she bathed in his blood? Sorry, Henry, you're coming out on the wrong end of this one. It was a good run. You had your fun, but your 7th wife would have been your undoing. So that is why this would have been my number 3. This was my number 3 on the list.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, she's pretty brutal. So, I mean, this is a pretty tough call. I feel like I'm more surprised by the pairing with Zuckerberg, only because just keep doing that every once in a while for you future listeners. You don't get to look at the picture of Zuckerberg. Sorry.
I would say this picture you're putting up, it's got a white background, which, makes a very pale person look less pale. Imagine how pale he'd look with a different background. Like, God, he's just such a, I just want to like fill his nose with green beans and just like stuff his mouth with mashed potatoes and then knock him upside the head. I don't know. And then feed him to Elizabeth Bathory. That's what I would God.
I think it's probably not an understatement that, Henry VIII was bad, but he was bad within his bubble. So I feel like Zuckerberg's had more of a worldwide approach of stealing things from people that you'll never get back. So that's why I'm going to award the stare down points to Mitch, because he does more damage on a global scale. So Mitch gets 3 points for the stare down, which is his number 5. Apparently, I'm sorry, that's 0 for Nathan at your 3, but you are getting 2 points for your number 5, which was all the way back when we talked about Abe Lincoln and $5 bills about a century ago there. So before I forget, so now that means we have gotten Mitch is 5. Let's go to Nathan's number 4. Who do you have on your list?
All right. This I think would be a real explosive relationship. It would probably burn out very quickly, but it would be the cause of a lot of inspiration for both parties. And this is it would, depending on which time period. Well, really, with either time period we live in, where these two people were contemporary, it would have to be a somewhat hidden and controversial romance. This is Oscar Wilde and William Shakespeare.
Oh my Lanto, we got another one! Holy cow! Dun, 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 dun. I was too slow for the video cue, so you guys are getting audio. Heyo! All right.
Brian, can I just
Yes.
a quick question, Nathan? Is this like Bill Shakespeare himself or his team of ghostwriters that are all dating Oscar Wilde together?
I was gonna work in some jokes about that, but then I figured you would bring it up for me. So, but no, this is Bill Shakespeare himself, who did write all of.
Okay.
He did write the plays. Well, yeah. Gosh. Okay.
Okay, that's a can of worms we do not have time for today.
We'll do a whole top 5 reasons William Shakespeare did write the plays of William Shakespeare. That's another list I have for a different day. But
I never noticed Bill has an earring. I never noticed that in that painting.
he does have an earring in there.
Shakespeare has an earring. It looks fake in that painting, though. That's what
I can't confirm or deny that this is an accurate photo. It is probably from Wikipedia.
Well, this brings me back to his Tinder profile, which I have. It says he's a playwright and actor, and he's going to specify he's in an open marriage, maybe, as he was married to Anne Hathaway. But a lot of speculation about Shakespeare's romantic life. He did write tons of sonnets that appear to be written for a young man, leading to the sexuality. Ambiguousness that allows him to be paired up with Oscar Wilde in this scenario. And then for his profile picture, that's the one, because I think there's only that and maybe one other possible picture of Shakespeare. I don't think there's many portraits of him. It's very it's really up in the air. That maybe that's what he looks like. Maybe that's somebody else. I don't know. Maybe it's the guy who actually wrote the plays, according to Mitch. I don't know. And then Oscar Wilde, his profile, he's going to say he's also a playwright and he's in an open marriage, possibly, because Oscar Wilde, who was gay and went to prison for being gay, but he did marry a woman and have children. So he's, they're both sort of in similar tempestuous marriage scenarios. And then his profile picture, it gets older all the time, but he doesn't. That's a great joke. That joke works. But yeah, so the relationship here, it would be short. It would be intense. They'd be strolling along the Thames River in London, the South Bank where Shakespeare's theater was. They would be holding court at all the numerous taverns in London and just espousing. Oh, hello.
Don't look at that. Don't look at that. There's been an error. We've been hacked. We've been hacked. Oh gosh. Sorry, continue, Nathan. That is my fault.
Well, no, I think that this would be one that would be all over the tabloids. It would be talked about for centuries later. They would both produce amazing works of theater based on their relationship. And so it may have just been a fleeting fling for the two of them, but it would live on in legend for all time. And that is why it is my number 4.
They do look cute together, I got to admit. I mean, this is a pretty good side by side. But Mitch, who did you pair with Mr. Wilde?
Yeah, I mean, clearly also Oscar could spare a lot of hair to help Bill with that receding hairline very easily. Again, wigs, guys. Let's go to wigs if you need to.
Hey, it's not their fault.
The person I paired Oscar Wilde with is a scion, and that is America's own RuPaul. And the reason I am pairing these two is that they both like in The Importance of Being Earnest and RuPaul's drag work. It's sort of like a commentary on staid gender roles and just like the normal like cliched identity bullshit that people fall into. And it's sort of like both of them were kind of Oscar Wilde for sure was a flouting dandy. I mean, this man went all over, tried to cause as much stir as possible. He was all about aesthetics. I mean, I read that in one of his first society parties he attended, he wore a suit that within it made the sounds. I think it was a cello or an accordion. So this guy was like, give me some attention. I'm out here. I am peacocking. I am here to be the pure cock of the walk. This is a performance. This is design. This is art. This is style. And so this is why these two men pair wonderfully together. RuPaul is a musician, movie producer, an actor, and his empire that he's built, combined with Oscar Wilde's writing, because RuPaul is not considered a he has written some books, but not considered a high level writer. Oscar Wilde would fill in those gaps there. This would be an insane power couple. Cannot imagine. I mean, they would rule the Met Gala fashion ball from here till they die. It would be no contest. Their first date would be like on the top of a skyscraper. Like, someone would rent like a private roof deck and there'd be flowers everywhere and, costumed servers. It'd be an absolute whirlwind fantasy relationship. And the paps, the tab boys would be all over them. They'd be following them at every movement. They'd be trying to get the photos. And
tab boys.
Yeah.
Did you say tabloids or tab boys?
I said the tab boys because tab boys.
Okay, good. I'm making sure I heard that correct. I like
the
that.
boys. The tab boys. And
the boys.
yeah, the tab boys.
Tabroids? What?
No, not tabloids. No, tab boys. Tab boys. I know I shouldn't put two B's together. I know that. But this just like the amount of I'm going to use it. I've said it before. Joie de vivre. The amount of joie de vivre that would just come pouring on their backsides as they sashay down any avenue in any major city in the world would be astounding. And I think that they both are like RuPaul, one extremely hard worker, has been doing it day in, day out for 3 decades now. Oscar Wilde got famous before he had actually done anything. He just had a PR team send out letters to America to fancy people. And he did an Oscar Wilde tour before he had ever actually done anything good. And so that talent of just like setting yourself up to like, risk it for the biscuit, if you will, fake it until you're making it. And then having this incredible facade, both of them, and the high art they both achieved is pretty damn cool. So I think this would be the most audacious, fanciest, most refined power couple you'd find. Period. End of story. Dropping the mic. There it is. Thank you very much. I'm gonna go now. Schlante, happy St. Pat's. I just won it. Thank you very much. I'm gonna go home. So
all right, don't get ahead of yourself there, Mr.
Okay.
Ginger Prince
All right.
guy.
Okay.
Do you think your couple would be as powerful or as we'll say UK media attention-y as the royal family? Do you think they would get this page 6 placement in the UK tabloids as much as Mitch's couple?
No, if you're asking me, this is more for history. This is one that is going to be out. It talked about down the ages, just like Shakespeare himself, just like Wilde himself. The works that will be a fruit of the union will last for centuries into the future. And so maybe it won't be as hot goss in the moment. But I think it will go down as one of the legendary affairs. It won't just be fleeting and in the moment situation.
Well, okay. I never said this is going to be a fleeting in the moment relationship. No, these are both groundbreakers. I mean, RuPaul has brought forward LGBTQ plus causes like light years, done so much for it. So I don't know. I think that this would be just as talked about, if not more, and there'd be a lot more photos to prove it. down the road. So as kids always say to me, pick or it didn't happen, when I'm bragging about my basketball exploits at the park. So just, put it out there. So
I'm at a crossroads here. I don't know which way to go because
Brian,
again,
pick me.
Look how cute they look next to each other. But you're right. This is a powerhouse couple that would probably take things into the next level.
Also, wait. This is very important.
At the buzzer. Go ahead, sneak it in.
This is very important, and this is why they are such a couple that people can literally look up to. Oscar Wilde, 6'3", RuPaul, 6'4". That is 2 sequoias of excellency and hot damnness. So,
well, little known fact. Little known fact, and you absolutely cannot refute this. There is no evidence saying that this is not true.
Writers together, they equal to 25
Shakespeare
feet,
was 7'3". It's true. He was 7'3". Find a place that lists his height. Otherwise, you can't. Shakespeare was 7'3".
If he was 7'3", when he fell through the trap door at the Globe Theater, he would break all of his ankles, and you could still see his head on the stage. So.
All of his ankles? Are there more than 2?
All of them.
No,
all 10 of his ankles.
All 10 of his ankles.
He was 7'3". He had 10 ankles. He was a genetic freak. But he was so remarkable. It's the least talked about aspect of him.
The bottom half of his shin is actually 4 stacked ankles on each leg.
Hold on. Saying all of his ankles is the same as both of his ankles.
Yeah,
but saying all of his ankles doesn't mean there's more than 2 ankles. That's just all of the ankles. So
you could have just said ankles, and for that you're losing the Uber stare down.
Are you kidding me?
All right, 3 points to Nathan.
Nathan,
this
jump
was your
off some cloudy cliffs into the sea.
I shall.
Irish.
This was your number 4, correct, Nathan?
It was, yes.
Okay, and then was this Mitch? Was this your number 4 as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thanks for clarifying it with such gusto.
Yeah. Yes, it was.
I feel like you need as a reward to get out of your little slumparoonie here, Mitch. I will give you a chance to go with your number 3.
Oh wait, actually, I'm sorry. I just lied to you. I'm sorry. I just lied to you. That was actually my number 2, not my number 4. Sorry.
My!
I just said yes out of reflection. I'm sorry. Okay.
No, that's okay. I can easily scratch off this 0 and move it lower on my page. Not a problem.
Fine. That's fine.
All right,
okay.
Mitch. You're number 4 now, Mitch.
My number 4. Yes. Whew, okay. This is another. This is an explosive couple, but on the opposite end of the spectrum. This is a woman named Carrie A. Nation. Carrie A. Nation, very fun name. You can spell it with an I-E or a Y as well, if you're wondering as I talk about her. But she was a famous religious and I guess just like moral activist in the early 20th century. And she was very much a strong woman. Divorced her husband, rebuked her husband's treatment of her, divorced him, got married a second time. That one died. And after that, she was like, no more husbands. Don't need them. Don't want them. Not doing anything for me. And she became very famous because in Kansas, she was very much for prohibition and wanted the drink and, the devil's water to be cleansed from her communities. And cheers to that on St. Patty's Day. And so she was famous for going to drinking establishments, walking in with a couple of her supporters as she would recite facts about the dangers of drinking and or scripture, and would have a hatchet and would just smash bars apart and smash glasses and break tables and break stools and break chairs. She was and she called that hatchetations. That was her hatchetation work. And so she was a very strong lady. Strong opinions, but cared much for the downtrodden upon and the less fortunate, and cared about children. Did a lot of charity work in her life, and so naturally, I think she would see this guy initially, and maybe she thinks she could change him. Maybe this is after a couple decades of being alone. She thinks, you know what, my twilight years. Let's give it a shot again. She goes on older Tinder, geriatric Tinder. I don't know if they even have that, but
I think it's just Tinder, but
is it just Tinder? Okay,
yeah,
yeah, okay.
But old people using it, yeah.
It's geriatrics only. It was acquired by the Farmers brand, so it's very specific niche. Yep.
And she'd find this guy, she'd be on vacation in California trying to soak up some extra vitamin D, and she'd match with none other than Richard Nixon. And boy, oh boy, old Tricky Dick finally meets his match, and he thinks, and of course he's really full of himself, so he thinks, I was president, I could do whatever I want. I'm gonna turn this lady, if you will. I'm gonna make her like me. I'm gonna charm her pants off. And guess what, old Dicky boy, it won't work. And Nixon, of course, a famous alcoholic, and also a famous, he loved, was it barbiturates and sleeping pills? And so, like, after a couple of drinks, he would literally just start going haywire in the White House. And there's one story, I can't remember after what legislation it had passed, but he left the White House wasted and went to the Lincoln Memorial where people were holding a vigil for someone or doing like an overnight protest. And he just went there and asked like just random Americans how he was doing, and asked them like basically to like help prop up his ego, because he was so worried about him doing a bad job. But then, of course, then when he'd sober up, then he just went back to being a terrible guy again. But so I think both of these people together, Nixon, because he experienced a lot of power throughout his life, governor of California, goes on to be president, kind of like takes what he wants when he wants. He thinks, this is like a fun project for him or something. And then Carrie a Nation comes in there and smashes the scotch glass right out of his hand with the blunt end of the hatchet. And this relationship is over before the bill drops. Nation splits the table and she walks out, and Nixon pays, and it's over. So, but I think,
but the blunt end of the hatchet, she's doing all this work.
Well,
that's a lot of power.
She doesn't want to like cut the glass in his hand. She just wants to break it. So that's why she's using the blunt end on that one. So it's
more of a misery approach, like sledgehammer with a timber, exactly. not a exactly. Lizzie Borden type situation.
Exactly.
See, I'm on board with you here. I'm on board. Tricky Dick. This is your number 4. We've already heard Nathan's number 3. This is a strong number 4, and anything that has Richard Nixon getting hit with a blunt object of any kind on or near him, I think is a satisfying piece. Nathan, do you have anything to add to Mr. Nixon here?
No, but I have an aside that I just received a text message from a Mr. Steve Moore, who is one of our closest friends in the entire world, and his text was, "Are you working?" So apparently he didn't know that we were live streaming our podcast for the first time ever. So thanks, Steve. Right. Thanks for your support.
That is minus 3 points for Steve Moore, who clearly is not checking the social meds. Mitch, that is 3 points for you. Again,
thank you, sir.
Love hatchets. I love hatchets. So
thank you.
You had me at hatchet is what I'm trying to say. That was your number 4. Let's go to Nathan's number 2 to get some diversity here, please.
All right, my number 2. This is one of those where they meet and a romance doesn't necessarily spark, but a friendship does. And this can happen. This can happen in the world of the dating apps. Turns out you can just make friends on there. Doesn't have to be any, any romantic game. Yeah. It happens. So this is 2 people who have somewhat similar interests. There's no sexual chemistry, but they get along really well intellectually, and then they become colleagues. And I'm talking about Amelia Earhart and Roger Lee Easton. So Amelia Earhart, as we all know, what a handsome fella. You wonder why there wasn't sexual chemistry. Roger Lee Easton with his comb over and jowls. I actually hadn't seen a picture of him before, This was the last addition to my list. I was really pushing it.
Was this guy Nixon's accountant, or who was he? Who was this guy?
Well, Amelia Earhart she's trying to circumnavigate the globe in her airplane, be the first person to ever do it. This is the thing she's known for. Tragically, she disappeared. She was somewhere in the South Pacific. They were looking for, it's an island. It's only like 2,000 feet long or something. That's where they were trying to land. But she had this complete clown, Fred Noonan, as her navigator. Fred Noonan. I mean, come on, Fred Noonan. What are we going to do with this guy? So Fred Noonan wasn't getting the job done. So
Fred Noonan, more like Dead Noonan, right?
Well,
very nice.
He certainly is now. So we needed Roger Lee Easton to be on Tinder back then, matching with Amelia Earhart, and then Roger Lee Easton, the man who invented GPS, solely responsible. We want this guy in the airplane next to Amelia Earhart. They would have been around the world in no time. It would have been no trouble whatsoever. Roger Lee, their first date, what better first date? They successfully circumnavigate the globe in an airplane. And airplanes back then were basically tin cans with little fans on either side. It would have been majestic. And also, I want to tell my personal favorite GPS story that's happened to me personally is when I was in downtown Chicago and I needed to get to a FedEx print and ship center. And I couldn't find one. And I knew there was one close. And so I went to my phone and used the Roger Lee Easton invented GPS. And I typed in FedEx print and ship, blah, blah, blah. And then the little directions came up and it said 14 feet away. And I have never felt dumber in my entire life. But
it works.
But I got there. I did print off my temporary insurance card for my car. So happy ending to that story. So it just goes to show Roger Lee Easton gets results. We needed him in the cockpit. Amelia Earhart would have got home safe. They would have had a long-lasting friendship. That romance, boys and girls. Tinder can lead to exploratory, wonderful achievements and some platonic friendships along the way. There you go.
I'm trying to bring my head back. I mean, I'm just so riveted by that FedEx Cinco story. I don't know how to circle back. Let me circumnavigate back to earlier in the story here, where I was only picturing Amelia and Noonan. Was he on the plane with her, do we think?
Fred Noonan was in the plane with her as a navigator, yes.
So my hope in this story is I'm hoping that wherever they crash landed, that they survived the crash landing and she beat him to death with her fist before drowning. Just because I feel like there needs to be some poetic justice in her going down, because she's the one who gets the bad rap. No one talks about Fred Noonan getting lost or putting them into the Bermuda Triangle or launching them into that hurricane that nobody saw, or, oh my God, there was a tsunami. No, it's like, oh, Amelia Earhart failed in circumnavigating the earth. No, Noonan needs to be on blast here.
Yeah, it's time for Noonan to get his comeuppance. My apologies to all of his descendants who are no doubt listening right now. They were all big fans of the show.
They need to wear this on their sleeves. This is no. This is us deciding right here. No more Noonan. Okay.
Well, I was gonna say I sent them all the links, but I think they're live streaming a different podcast right now. So they couldn't find their way here, unfortunately. But
they're probably watching on. I mean, we're going to 6 places right now. They're probably watching on the ones that failed or are not working at the moment that I can't see. So we'll just move on from that. Nathan, that was your number 2 for putting the image of Noonan getting beat to death, which you didn't say. I put in my head. I'll give you the 3 points for this round, which brings me to Mitch. I need your number 3, I believe it is.
Sure. Well, first I'm curious. Now, first date, if you go on an airplane trip together, just you two, that's taken a long time, right? That's like 48 hours in those days, maybe. Is there anything?
That's it. 48 hours.
Or is it longer to completely?
In a single prop plane from the, I'm sure they have to make a couple of stops.
They made several fueling stops.
Well, I mean, yeah. But I'm saying like, okay, like today's planes, I guess I was talking, it'd probably take 48 hours total to get around everywhere, right?
Probably.
Well, sure.
Probably.
Let me check the science on that. Yep, that's correct. Cool.
Good. Well, no, I was just thinking like, what is something I would actually do for 48 hours straight with someone I just met? You know, not the obvious thing, you know, not the obvious, like, you know, kissy, smoochy thing. But you know, like, is there anything I would actually do? And I think the only thing would be if I met someone and then like went on a camping trip with their family. I think that would be my perfect first foray in. What's up? Like, you know, you're out in the woods so you can get away and think, you know, by some trees by yourself a little bit here and there. Hopefully there's no toilets. So everyone's pooping out of doors. You know, that's something to talk about. Breaking the ice, you know. And then also I know how to build a fire and pop some tents and, you know, cook meat over an open flame. So Mr.
when you match on Tinder, you're thinking, man, I really hope that our first date I get to poop behind the same tree as this lady's dad. That's what I'm looking for.
Nathan, people don't poop behind the same tree when you go out camping. Everyone has their own poop area, and you tell them, I'm going out to read a magazine, and then everyone knows that's their area. You don't go there. Am I the only one who's pooped out of doors before?
Yes.
Really?
I have not pooped outdoors.
Oh, okay. Here. Oh, just I want to hear an activity you guys would do for a long time first date. But I just want to tell you once, I found a great log and I'm sitting on the log. Okay, but it was on a hill, and as I'm about to go for the toilet paper, reach out and I accidentally knock it off the log, and it rolls down the hill. So I had to get up and go down and retrieve the toilet paper and roll it back. Actually, I just tore it off. I didn't roll it back up. But still, there is nothing more animalistic and dehumanizing than chasing after toilet paper down a hill when you just
with the pants are on your ankles going downhill like black Chris Farley and Black Sheep. That's all I picture.
Exactly
happening.
Exactly.
Before you move on to what I believe is your number 3, Mitch, we do have a comment here from your good buddy Robert Callahan, who said that if you kiss for 48 hours straight, you'd probably have to go to the hospital. So that's a very good point. Make sure you put that.
Wow.
Yep, good point.
You know, and hopefully the surgeon's very talented and he can detach us quickly. You know, but yeah, good point, Robert. Thank you for bringing that up.
Your number 3,
yes.
sir.
Oh yeah, my number 3. Okay. It is this one is you know, young people use Tinder in different ways. They it's not just one-on-one now. Some people go on as couples, and this one would be one of those kind of you know, free-for-alls. It would be. So this is I'm calling this a big puppy pile because everyone's young in this scenario. It's a young Lana Turner, it's a young Rob Lowe, it's a young Candice Bergen, a young Taye Diggs, and a young Leonardo DiCaprio. And maybe, you know, some are friends. Maybe it's like all the guys that maybe they have an account together, or maybe, you know, Rob Lowe, Candy Bergen, and Lana Turner all live in the same apartment complex and they're just looking for friends or something. But we have just like people coming of age and becoming stars at different times here. Lana Turner famously discovered ordering a milkshake at the Top Hat Malt Shop in Hollywood. Candy Bergen, her dad was a ventriloquist, so she was kind of already in the biz a little bit. Leo was working from like, I don't know, age 4 on, like he just knew the business inside and out. Rob Lowe, buds with Charlie Sheen in high school, but just all these people at their like hot apex when they're like 22, 24, whatever it is. You know, Rob Lowe from Outsiders, you know, that era. Candy Bergen from when she was in, I can't remember the name of the movie now, but with Elliot Gould, 1970 film.
Getting Straight.
Getting Straight. Thank you very much.
Yeah, one of the most ridiculous movies of all time, but Elliot Gould and Candice Bergen just
solid.
Yeah, it's so fun. So fun.
Very
so
solid.
Ridiculous and stupid, but so fun. Yeah.
Taye Diggs from the movie with Julia Stiles where they're dancing together all the way through New York. I can't remember the name of that movie now.
Did you do any research for this one, or
No, I
did you
did.
send me a
I
bunch
did.
of names, break the rules, and make me have to put 6 people in one graphic after I had a perfect template?
Wait, what
Sitting
was
here-
that? What was that movie though?
Say the right dance. No, play the last dance.
I
No.
don't know.
Dance the right move. Shake and twirl through Brooklyn. No, that wasn't it. Dance school romance. Julia and Tay have a good time. No, that wasn't it. Tay Diggs is a pretty good dancer, obviously. Julia Stiles, surprisingly average.
I'm not
can't
looking this
find
up.
it.
I'm letting
Save
the
the
whole
last dance. Save the last dance. There it is.
Save the
Oh
Last
my-
Dance.
I dug out of my own dumb hole. Okay. But so you have Leo, who's experiencing like insane Titanic fame. So everyone's kind of coming of age in different eras here. Lana Turner, obviously the 40s, Candy Bergen, late 60s, Rob Lowe, Brat Pack, 80s, Leo doing his thing with his Pussy Posse in like mid to late 90s, and then Tay Diggs starting on Broadway and coming over. So this is just one big hot hangout. That's what this is. And maybe a couple of them will pair off, maybe like in a week. Rob Lowe will text Candy Bergen on the side and be like, hey, do you want to, go to Point Doom and like, have a surf and do like a beach fire or whatever. Or they just have one.
Sorry, let's have a surf. Just what a cool invite to get on.
Yeah.
Hashtag let's have a surf.
That's a California invite right there.
Oh,
Couple-
hey, man.
Get some shrimp
Also-
and pineapple.
Also, Tay Diggs was not in Save the Last Dance.
What was
That
it?
was a different human being, and his name is Sean Patrick Thomas, who starred in that movie.
No, Tay Diggs was in something. Oh no, I'm sorry. You're right. Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. He was. Oh God, this is egg on my face, egg all over my face, down my collar, inside my turtleneck. How Stella got her groove back. There it is.
He was in that movie. Yes.
That's
Yes,
what you were
I'm so
looking
sorry.
for this whole time?
But
I thought
Julia
you'd already-
Stiles was not
out.
in that movie though.
No, she definitely was not. It definitely was not Julia Stiles.
No.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I was
18-year-old Julia Stiles did not play a 40-year-old black woman. That didn't happen.
No,
Yeah.
she absolutely did not.
There's
I
still
was,
time, God damn it. Sorry, go, continue.
So yeah, so this is just the hottest group of people looking cool at a bar, and then they go back to someone's Hollywood Hills home and just do a bunch of cocaine and have some Zima, and there they go, go.
Wow.
So yeah,
Brought to
And they
you
have
by
themselves-
Zima.
and they have themselves a good old bad time. So there it is.
Oh my God. That went so many directions.
I need to deeply apologize to
Everything that
Tay
could have been
Diggs.
answered with a
So-
simple IMDb search, but no,
Yep.
our dear listeners don't even get that.
Well,
Um,
I'd been doing research and I'd been working all over IMDb the past week, and so I got a little confused. I'm sorry.
I know, I understand, but one, you mixed up Save the Last Dance and how Stella got her groove back, and you made me do so much work making that damn graphic that you're only getting 1 point for this round.
I didn't ask you to make that graphic. Okay, whatever.
I was doing so good, and then all of a sudden I get Mitch's list, and I'm like, well, he's cheating again. These are not the rules. No, it's fair. A pile up is definitely deserving of at least 1 point.
Thank you.
No problem. But man, can you believe we're here already? The number ones with all this mixing and matching of stare downs and going over the list and not knowing what number we've been on this whole damn time. Let's do a live. It'll be easy. We haven't had stare downs in a while. Here's the 2 most complicated ones we've had in forever. Number one, Mitch, we just heard from you. Nathan, let's go to you for your number 1 world history Tinder match. Who do you got for us?
All right, before I reveal my number 1, I do want to reveal my number 1 all-time best Tinder breakup from my own personal, where I went on 3 dates with a woman and she broke up with me, and this is I swear this is what she said. I'm sure it wasn't the reason, but this is what she said. She broke up with me because I'm afraid of heights. So there you go. That's the magic of Tinder, ladies and gentlemen.
Wait, she broke up with you because you were afraid of heights, which really has no impact on her life.
Well, no, she was an avid skydiver. She's like, I want my partner to be able to go skydiving with me, and I was like, well, that's okay. So we split up. Anyways, that was my favorite breakup I've ever had.
That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard, and I'm glad it's over because she didn't deserve you.
Well,
that sounds like like an Arrested Development storyline.
Yes,
like it doesn't work.
Completely does.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing she found some other part of me terrible, but just didn't want to say it out loud and was trying to be nice, and that was her excuse. Yeah, she said she broke up with me because I'm afraid of heights, which I was like upset for like 30 seconds, and I'm really glad this happened to me. Like, I've lived a full life. Somebody has broken up with me because I'm afraid of heights. I have not been shorted. This is a funny experience. Anyways,
what a great tale. I mean, that is the best breakup I've heard of. So.
Yeah.
Man.
Number one, all-time breakup, afraid of heights. Okay. Anyways, my number one historical Tinder match. This is two writers, two brilliant minds, two bright young things from England in the Romantic era. One is the son of William Godwin, who was one of the forerunners of anarchism, and her was Mary Wollstonecraft, who is credited as being one of the first feminists. And then the other is one of the most acclaimed Romantic poets, who was tossed out of Oxford for writing a pamphlet entitled "The Necessity of Atheism," going against the Church of England and the establishment in Oxford in the time. He was all over the tabloids. He was friends with Lord Byron, who was mad, bad, and dangerous to know. They were like modern day rock stars. So they meet up, and it's explosive, it's fiery, it's inspirational, and they have the greatest date of all time, in which they go up into the woods in Geneva, Switzerland, with Lord Byron. It was called. This is 1816. It was called The Year Without a Summer, and this is unseasonably cool all year. There was some volcano that erupted in the South Pacific, and it disrupted the climate the world over. And so they're up in the hills in Switzerland. They're stowed away in this big mansion, and they have a contest to see who can write the greatest ghost story. And she ends up coming up with Frankenstein. Later he dies in a shipwreck in Italy, possibly assassinated by government agents. What could be more romantic and exciting than this story? And the thing that makes this one my number one is it's true. This is Mary and Percy Shelley. These two actually found each other and actually lived this life. I think they're fascinating. You couldn't write this story. Like, I've wanted so badly to see a movie made of their life, but I think it's one of those where it's like it's too good of a story in and of itself, where I just don't think anybody's thought they could do justice to the story of these people's lives. But it is a true romance that actually happened, and there you go. That is my absolute number one historical Tinder match. They didn't even need Tinder to do it, but they found each other. And an entire genre of movies happened because of this union, and the horror movies that, how many times has Frankenstein been adapted? Probably more than any other story in the English language. So yeah, there you go.
Wow.
I took a Frankenstein class at DePaul, which actually started with Shelley all the way up through what was the bad one from 1992 that I didn't like?
Kenneth Branagh with Robert De Niro. Yeah, that one sucks.
Yeah, I was not a fan, but it was cool seeing how it's changed through time. I don't know much about Percy, so I can't really jump in here as much as I would like. Mitch, do you have anything to say about Percy? Because I did not do my research.
This is I'll be honest, first time I'm hearing about Percy Shelley in my
I know, me too.
life. So this is
So Nathan, can you please give us a quick dissertation on
Well-
the rest of Percy Shelley's life?
well, I was gonna say, much like my trip to the woods, I'm caught with my pants down here. So I don't have a lot to add.
Well, he's been my favorite poet since I was in college, and I like really, if you wanted me to explain why I like him so much, I would just be sitting here reading early 19th century romantic poetry to our listeners, and I'm not going to subject anybody to that. But he was a rebel. He was just kind of a wispy, ethereal individual. Lived a life of controversy. He was in the tabloids. Lived a very maverick lifestyle. Also, his poetry is amazing and quite beautiful. The big reference in modern culture is the greatest episode of Breaking Bad, which is often regarded as one of the greatest episodes of TV ever made, Ozymandias, which is like second or third to last episode of the series.
Second to last.
That is Ozymandias is it's the name of a poem that he wrote about a statue of a king that has fallen in the desert, and a traveler comes across it. And that is a poem by Percy Shelley, and Bryan Cranston recited it in the trailer for the episode. It is a great episode, but that's one way that Percy Shelley's legacy has lived on. And then being friends with Byron, who was possibly even more charismatic and ridiculous than he was. Is a cool dude. So I will stop nerding out and let us get on with the show. But yeah, great dude.
Hey, when we sat down, we put our minds together, we talk about pop culture, we talk about a lot of things, embarrassing stories of our life. When we decided what's going to be the topic that'll be the most generic for a live stream audience, we picked a bunch of dead people and poets. So we are not the smartest people. Mitch, you're going to have to take this one up a notch and see if you can beat his number one. Who do you have on your list, sir?
Sure. Well, and, Nathan mentioned he's been his favorite since college, and I roomed with Nathan in college. And you must have been talking about Percy Shelley, but it wasn't loud enough over, the Wedding Crashers that was on the TV, or the JJ Redick performances we were watching on ESPN. So I apologize if my ears weren't open at those times.
That did make me sound a little more well-read than I actually was. Yeah. We did watch Wedding Crashers 79 times, I think, between the years 2005 and 2007.
We did.
All right, listeners, make sure you put the kids to bed for this one. Your good friend Robert Callahan has chimed in again, Mitchell. This time saying Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein because she, Percy, and Lord Byron got bored of fucking each other at the castle. So there's our last family-friendly approach. Moving on to your number one, Mitch. Lay it on us.
Robert, I miss you dearly, and one day Robert Mitchum will ride again. I just want to say that quickly. Only Robert knows what that means. But my number one, I'm going to bring us out of the beautiful, tasteful mountains of Switzerland down into the gutter a bit here, because my number one couple, they're both gonna insist that the other one comes to their neighborhood for the date. Like neither of them will have the ego or the lack of ego to travel. And so my number one couple is Marge Schott and Kim Jong-il.
What?
Marge Schott, which you don't see if you're watching live here. The photo up here, Marge Schott is giving a thumbs up. Kim Jong-il giving his famous salute to his nation. And Marge Schott was much like Kim Jong-il was famous for an outfit, and she wore often either like an all red or an all white Cincinnati Reds jumpsuit because she was the owner of the Cincinnati Reds, and she was infamous for just being just the worst person. Like everyone just said she's vile, she's crude, she was incredibly racist towards everyone. She just like all colors, creeds, religions. Whoever wasn't white and drunk and German like she was, she would shots fired at them for sure. There's even some they're pretty sure that some of her cousins were actual like fighters for the Axis, war boys or war people, if you will, for the Axis of evil during World War II. So not a great history there, but like Kim Jong-il, he also has a certain uniform. So they each wear a monochromatic uniform, and they're both short. They're both kind of like weirdly sized. Like, they're not, they don't work out, they're like little, like a 3-pound sausage and a 2-pound skin, if you will. Each of them kind of come waddling in, they each like to drink. I don't know exactly what Kim Jong-il had for a pet, 'cause I'm sure he had tons of them, but Marge Schott was famous for her St. Bernard Shotzi, which had full run of the Cincinnati Red Stadium. And he was famous for leaving poops on the field that she wouldn't clean up. And like players would have to be like, hey, there's dog shit on our professional baseball field. Anyone want to handle with this? And another way that Marge and Kim were in common here was that Marge was famous for turning off lights and yelling at her employees to turn off lights if they were leaving their office, even to just get a cup of coffee. She was that cheap. She never replaced the rugs. But also, like Kim in North Korea, much of his country was dark a lot of the time, trying to save that money. So they both share that kind of inclination to not spend on anyone else except for themselves. Both just total egomaniacs, stubborn. She did have a soft spot in her heart for animals and children, which like people always tell you, if you start a foundation, do it for children or do it for animals, because people will always give money for that. And Kim had a soft spot for really elaborate musicals and American movies and basketball. So, I'm sure they'd have some weird eccentric conversations, but mainly I can just imagine them sitting in a corner booth. They're snapping at the waiters, doing the like hand signal where they're like, waiter, one more Miller Lite, where he's like, oh, give me another champagne tower, because he has very, eccentric taste. And she's, a German in Cincinnati. Cincinnati people love drinking beer. So I just think that they would hate each other the whole time, but I think they would feel really comfortable sitting next to each other on like a gold couch as they each just like make other people's lives a living hell. And then they, and then they watch like documentaries about Elizabeth Bathory, together as their sleeping pills take hold and they go to sleep. So
I remember Marge Schott mostly from SportsCenter when I was a kid, being like 10 or 12 years old and waking up before school and watching SportsCenter at 7 a.m. And she was villainized then. And so I hadn't really thought about her in like over 20 years. But as you were telling us, I looked her up, and I'm just doing the very little research that I've been able to do in the last 6 minutes or so. You have actually been very gentle on her. She was horrible. Yes. Like there's plenty of stuff here that is available that we should not say, because she was awful. Not appropriate for a family show, but
we will. And
but I mean, still, she wasn't a tyrant, but it feels like if given the chance, she would have been. So I can see where you're coming from here.
She was definitely the tyrant of the Great American Ballpark, which I think is what the name of the Reds stadium was. Like she was also known, like during contract negotiations, if there was an argument, sometimes she would settle the argument just by flipping a coin rather than actually considering all of like the human elements of someone's employment. Like she was just an absolute crazy nutball piece of crap. Also, just like the most racist. And in a nationally televised interview with ESPN, said Hitler was right at the beginning. He just went too far and then didn't back off those comments. And that is, you're like, okay, you're done. Yep, get out. Yep. Party's over. Get the fuck out. So
that'll do it.
And I also learned Kim Jong-il had a horrible fear of flying, just like his father. Kim Jong-il sung, and so he would ride by train to Russia and China for his big old meetings or whatever. And I imagine that Marge would be on that train with him, and her dog would just be running up and down the aisles, just holding court, pooping wherever he wants, slobbering on people. knocking, emissaries over as he goes for like a pet or whatever. So I think these two would be right off into the sunset together and die of heart attacks at the same time. I think is probably what would happen when it would end. So.
Well, I can actually now say definitively this wouldn't work because it was Marge Schott that broke up with me for being afraid of heights. So.
Oh, oh my God! It's come full circle. Mitch, we got a little bit more show here to fit in, but for bringing us back into the gutter, I'm giving you the full 3 points because. I mean, Nathan is the first one ever to label this a family show, and it sure as shit is not. So, Mitch, you get 3 points for your final round there. And as I mentioned earlier, I cannot determine a winner without introducing our distinguished guest who has been in the green room with nothing but dry roasted peanuts and a hamster water dispenser for nearly 13 hours now. If you remember today's house rule, the special guest with the most embarrassing story of me, he's got one story for you, one story for Nathan. Will win one of you 3 points, excuse me. So, let me introduce our special guest. It is Kevin Polo, sir.
Oh,
hello, Kevin.
Oh, hey, sorry guys, I'm looking through my cards, see if I have any Marge Schott cards in here. What's up, guys?
I think.
Welcome to the show.
I think Topps released Marge Schott limited edition bar napkins. I think in 1991. So you should look for those.
Yeah, I think her cards were like in the ones that they sell inside the cigarette packs, like in the 20s. I think they kept that on with her. Gotta get some
I think Smithfield was her brand. I'm pretty sure Smithfield. Not a sponsor of the show, but I would love them to be a sponsor. That'd be great.
That's what it is.
Right, that wasn't the name of the ballpark. Smithfield.
When he is not co-hosting the Marvelous podcast, you'll find him on Instagram and TikTok as @DisneyWorldToday. Kevin, can you please tee up story number 1? I'm going to assign to Mitch. Story number 2, I will assign to Nathan. Embarrassing stories you remember of my past. Story number 1, take it away.
All right. Seeing that I run a Disney Instagram page, I figured I'll start us off with a little Disney story. For all of you who don't know, I had the pleasure of going on 2 Disney vacations with Brian here. Our first one being in 2008. It was our senior year of high school. It was like a graduation gift. And, Brian got to tag along with me and the family. So this one's, there's a few funny moments that happened. First, I'll get off saying we went to a lot of Disney buffets. That's where we went. My family loves to eat. Brian loves to eat. It was a match made in heaven. Disney buffets all day, every day. So we go to this one. It's called Trail's End. It's like a cabin style. It's still, somewhat upper class-ish. It's Disney. They're expensive. And we're like on our second loaf of French toast. Brian's going deep in the Mickey waffles. And he goes up, he comes back, and he's just got like this look on his face. Like I thought something happened. He sits down, he like puts his plate, and he's just kind of sitting there. I'm like, what happened? He's like, I got the biggest glob of butter you could imagine, like the size of a baseball. I went to throw it on my plate and I missed, and it just went splat on the middle of the floor. And he's like, I didn't know what to do. Like that was the last of the butter. I wasn't gonna wait, so I just left. I'm like, oh, that's weird. So like a minute later, my dad comes back from the buffet. He's been up there too. He comes down without knowing anything. He sits down and he goes, you guys are not this. There's like a softball sized slab of butter in the middle of the ground. I think people like are slipping on it. Like all this stuff. And I'm just looking at Brian like, you just left it? What? That's Brian's butter. So that was the first one. That was, that's my first experience with Brian and Disney. Second one. All right. We go to the water park. There's this water park called Typhoon Lagoon. They have this side called the Crush and Gusher. Okay, it's like a combination of like with like a roller coaster. It's a water coaster.
Okay.
And what's amazing about it is that you can fit up to 3 grown men on one raft, and you sit like in one, and you have each other's feet. So it's like he really got close to my dad this trip, and so the trip before this, me and my dad had this ride. It was a fiasco. So we're like, Brian, we don't really want to on this. It involved falling off and maybe my dad losing his swimsuit and being naked on a slide. But that's for another time. So we're like, Brian's like, I want to go on this. It's my time here. We're like, all right. So I'm tying up my suit as tight as I can. My dad's doing the same thing. So we go on this ride, and we're all big guys, and they don't check for like a weight limit or anything. So we're going on this coaster. It's this little inflatable raft, and we're holding each other's like legs. And like I'm telling Brian, like, don't let go like of my dad's legs. So we go on. We're going down the first jump. We get so airborne that like I lose my grip, and I'm like hanging on. I'm like, it's insane. Okay, so we get to the last drop. We go down and up, and we got so airborne that I came completely off the raft. And when doing so, Brian's legs, like I let go of his legs, and they like landed like where I would sit. So I come down, I land flat on Brian's legs. So we get off the slide, and Brian's just kind of floating along. He's like, I think I broke my legs. I think I broke both my legs. And he's just kind of doggy paddling to the side. And I'm like, should we get help? Or he's like, no, I don't want to. Let's just go. And like, I swear to God, for the rest of the day,
I don't need any help.
He's just like doggy paddling to the side, and he just goes to the nearest body of water, and he just plops in the water, and he's just sitting there holding his legs like with his eyes closed, and he's sitting in the kiddie pool. So there's little kids like around him, like they're playing with buckets and things, and Brian's just sitting there like it's Brian's. That was my first experience on a vacation with Mr. Brian Ernst here.
Oh. I had forgotten about the details of that water coaster one. I remember my coccyx hitting the back of the slide. We got airborne when you're not supposed to. You're supposed to go along the slide and land. Airborne down. Yep. There's three of us.
I came down right on his legs.
All right.
I think he was like so mad at me. He just sat in the kiddie pool for the rest of the day.
I think being worried about my legs being broken around a bunch of kids pissing in the pool, playing with buckets, was a little bit more embarrassing than accidentally dropping some butter. So that means that Nathan, you will be getting the bonus points, which we were tied at 10-10. So 3 points to Nathan puts you as the victor, 13-10 today.
Thank you, Kevin.
Hallelujah. Man, Kevin coming in with the closer there.
Yep. I'm like bitch out here.
Well, it's St. Patrick's Day, as we all know, and we cannot leave today without hearing my Fast Five send-off of the definitive, too many beers deep, list of the top Patricks of all time. Number 5, Danica Patrick. With over 368 races under her belt across NASCAR and the IndyCar series, hailing from Beloit, Wisconsin, this Patrick breaks too many ceilings to count, including teaching me what domain names were thanks to GoDaddy. Appreciate that. Number 4, Patrick Stewart. This non-American treasure is a no-brainer for this list. The man read us all of Shakespeare's sonnets, one a day during the pandemic, with the 80th one landing on his 80th birthday. Is there anything more poetic than that? He's Picard. He's Professor X. He's my hero. Number 3, Patrick Star. The real reason we tuned into SpongeBob, we had to get through all the annoying bits to get to the best part, a chipper starfish living under a rock where we all wish we could be. Number 2, Patrick Swayze. 2 words, Roadhouse. Runners up, Patrick Warburton, Pat Benatar, and Patrick Dempsey sadly did not make the cut, but coming in at number 1, Mr. Miyagi himself, Pat Morita. How can we pass up such great advice? As if it comes from inside you, it's always the right decision. Win, lose, no matter. You make good fight, earn respect, then nobody bothers you. And he was Arnold Takahashi on Happy Days, the Emperor of China in Mulan. Pat Morita, the best Patrick of all time. It's on the list. It is proven. This week's edition of Uber Cinco thanks to I can't talk. It's been too long. That is this week's edition of Uber Cinco. Thanks again to our special guest, Kevin Pope. Listen to him again on the Marvelous Podcast and at Disney World today. Thank you, sir. From high atop his ginger mountain has been
Mitch Brinkman.
And the man with more Coke Zero than blood has been
Nathan Hennenfent.
And I have been Brian Ernst. And as Biz Bear always says, kiss my Blarney Stones, you honey-stealing sack of crap. Auf Wiedersehen and adios.
That's a send-off.